Was there any information, was there something on the minutes of instruction? Was there anything you needed to say about that?
I added that there, but we can talk a little, well, I guess maybe just so you're aware, we do keep track of where we stand with our minutes of instruction, and if you look at the chart that was embedded, the line that's probably most insightful is the line about, it's the green, where the hours we still have good grade. It's not on here. Kindergarten instruction. Oh, this is it, yes. So this green, well, let me get that up.
Line 22.
Mine aren't numbered.
Grades 1 through 6 instruction was equal.
Yes, equal at least, yes.
22.
Right, so you can see that for I'm looking at 4-year-old kindergarten. I'm on the wrong, sorry. I printed off the 4K and not the regular. Are you looking at the one for all the schools? Wyville, Warrens?
Yes.
Okay. Let me just hit it up here.
Well, I don't know.
Yes, yeah.
It's all across the
Here
top.
across the
We're
top.
on the 13, 14
Here it is.
tab.
Yeah, I printed off the wrong tab myself. Okay. So grades 1 through 6 instruction must equal at least 1,050 hours. So when you look at that, you can see that currently, with the days that we have had off because of snow, we do not have the 2 snow days that we're planning on making up built into this, but when you look at line 22, there's 15 extra hours. There's a piece of legislation in front of the legislature right now to eliminate that 180-day requirement, but keep the minutes and hours of instruction. So we currently have at our elementary schools anywhere from 15 to 29 extra hours. So like right now we're making up those 2 snow days. The only reason we're making them up is because we don't meet the day requirement. We would still meet the instructional minute requirement. The problem we have would be the middle school. As you can see that they currently only have 12 hours left, and an instructional day at the middle school is 404 minutes, which is a little bit more than 6 hours a day for instruction, so they would be short. But all of our other schools, theoretically, we could say we don't need to make up those days if that piece of legislation were to pass. So we just wanted you to know that we do monitor this, we keep an eye on it to make sure that we are meeting the days right now as well as the minutes of instruction. So. And this comes into play a little bit more too when we look at the next item on the common calendar for school districts in the area. Do you have any questions on that chart?
No, I just thank you for reviewing it.
No, and I should have said too, I didn't specifically go into a couple of the resolutions, but one of them, of course, the WASB supported strongly again, was what's before the legislature right now, and that was they support allowing local districts the maximum latitude in determining the number of days of direct pupil instruction using the hours required under current law and in determining what constitutes a day of school. They further went on to say that they support legislation to repeal the existing statutory provisions governing the number of school days required under current law, and supports legislation to allow districts to be governed only by the hours of direct pupil instruction. So that's what you're referring to. And they were very supportive of course, the amendment that we brought forth, or the resolution we brought forth concerning changing the starting date of the school year from September 1st to a different date. didn't even have to speak to that necessarily. They were all in favor of it. So it was wonderful.
I think there's a growing movement around the state that the September 1st date just does not work, given the expectations that exist in public education today.
It's funny it's taken them so long, to figure that out. I mean, it's been a long time.
2000, I think 2000 was when it was, yeah, so it's been about 15 years.
Yeah.
But when the change was made in that law, it was one of those late night sessions of the legislature where a deal was made, and it's not like people had a lot of ability to stand up against it. I mean, the tourism industry was very, and continues to be very powerful in terms of this particular topic. So.
So we're going to look at the calendar. Is that the next thing?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. So last month, Mrs. Pope was here and talked about, we did share a little bit about how our flexible learning year calendar committee has kind of got two different avenues of investigation, and we're looking at year-round school at Lemonwire. And then the other piece of work that's happening is we do have a local group of superintendents who are working on a consortium calendar. And so what you see here is the first draft of that calendar. The start date that they're suggesting is mid-August, August 12th. What they agreed to was, the agreement was that school would start on the same date, that there would be some common professional development days so that we potentially could bring in keynote speakers for the area, that schools could come together, teachers could network. There would be these high-rated speakers coming in. They also felt that it was important to build in intersessions at the end of every quarter. So there is a week off at the end of the quarter to provide remediation as well as enrichment for students. And then there was
Can you just, when you talk about that, when you say a week off, can you explain what a week off means? Is that just kind of, is that for the students, or is that for staff, or is that for everybody, or what is it?
It's the week off.
It's intersessions.
The intersession is not you're not necessarily required to be there. But for our students who need additional help and remediation, we would hope that their parents would opt to take advantage of that. And then we would also be providing enrichment opportunities for kids that were interested in pursuing that. So kids could be in school during that time. We wouldn't need every teacher, but we would need teaching staff who would agree to work during that time, and then it would be based, of course, on the numbers of students that are going to be participating.
And then and maybe I'm jumping the gun, but this is all based on a 180-day current calendar, or what's?
It is, yes. It's currently based on that 180 days or 175 face-to-face, but 100 days working calendar for teachers. So the week intersessions as such, that's the other piece of that 180-day piece of legislature. They are looking at changing the language that there could be funding provided for those timeframes. So summer school funding could be applied during those weeks so that schools could count pupil enrollment during that time and receive reimbursement for that. Now, if that doesn't pass, there's a lot of, I know Steve Salerno said from lacrosse that could be a deal breaker for them in terms of having that week off, because if there's no additional financing coming in, the cost could be prohibitive. So there's a lot of this that's certainly still up in the air.
Yep. I just wanted to make sure.
The other thing, there was agreement reached on, and that would be that we would all end the school year within a week of one another, so that the latest would be June 8th, but you would try not to finish before June 1st, so that we'd allow a week of difference, but try to keep it within that time frame. Now, Steve Salerno, who's one of the assistant superintendents of lacrosse, actually took those concepts then and just built it into the current calendar that lacrosse uses for their parent-teacher conferences and for when they do staff development and those types of things. So we recognize that our district could take this and say, okay, how does this work for us? Do we, I've had discussions with them that I'm not completely sold on the full weeks of intersections because we've discussed. What I'm struggling with is this as a better calendar. First semester before Christmas break is over with, and we believe that the whole idea of remediation and enrichment should be before you provide it. I wasn't able to convince everybody sitting in on that committee, although a few superintendents were in agreement, not everybody was willing to necessarily go that way. But they said, take this then and look at it from your school district's perspective to make changes that would work and see if you can still fit things in with the requirements that are there. So, for instance, they said maybe you're not going to have a week of intervention, maybe you're going to have 3 days, and you're bringing kids in for remediation one day, and you're doing professional development another day, and the third day everybody has off or something. We can make some modifications to this. So what I would like to recommend is that our flexible learning your calendar committee group really take a look at this and make the suggestions for how they think this should be tweaked for Toma within some of the guidelines that exist.
Now, one of the things that we talked about in the flexible calendar committee was trying to, part of this would be to align with a student with college times. So a student who wants to take and is eligible to take like a college course, it aligns, the semesters or the quarters align. And college, the semester is over before Christmas, isn't it?
That's correct, yeah. And they pick up usually the third week in January.
So they could, if it was somebody graduating a semester early, they could still go with this calendar. The semester ends at the 8th of January, and classes probably wouldn't start until the following week or the week after that. But that's not giving them a lot of time to turn around.
Correct, but and that is one of the things. But the one what they were talking about more so, I think, was our high school students who are still in high school but taking a college course, whether it's at Tech or whether it's at a university during
the winter session.
Yeah, still taking high school courses, but also taking, we're working on those partnerships, and we're wanting to be able to do that.
I'm not sure how it's going to work to be off for a week and a half and then just coming back for a few days and having your end of the semester exams.
Yeah.
So I would think we would want to tweak it so that semester exams would be right before Christmas.
Yeah.
Have it over with and then start the new semester. But it just depends on how you tweak the intersessions.
Yeah. We're saying it differently now. We're saying the same thing.
What's the rationale behind having in common? I mean, we don't really know that. I guess what's the
For having a common calendar?
Yeah, why do we need to have a common calendar?
Well, I think we're suggesting to our legislators that if there's an area of the state where school districts can agree upon a calendar, that they waive the September 1st start date. You allow them to begin earlier.
Way to get around the law, because unless this law changes miraculously in this legislative session.
So the other thing that has come up, and I've included for you, that we've drafted a letter to Dr. Evers in regard to the school districts that have been working on this. And, you know, listed there are the 5 basic tenets that we've kept in mind. And then we believe one of the criteria for DPI to waive the September 1st start date is extraordinary reasons. There's extraordinary reasons that require it. So you can see that we're making the case that these are extraordinary times. There's so much on people's plate when it comes to what's happening in public education, whether it's educator effectiveness, response to intervention, PBIS, the Common Core, the technology innovations that are taking place, the smarter balanced assessments, the ACT suite. You know, we can go on and on. These are very revolutionary times, truly, in public education. There's more reform taking place right now than has happened potentially in the history of education in this state. So we believe that those demands really require a different calendar in order for us to be able to meet the needs of our students. And then they go on to talk about a second piece of this is there actually is no definition for year-round school in the state statutes. And so we did have a conversation with, I believe her name is Jessica, I'm not going to remember her last name, but she's at DPI, she's a legislative aide. She seemed to think that this calendar could be defined as a year-round calendar, especially if you're having summer school sessions that take place in June or July. I explained to her that previously we had sent in our balanced calendar that actually only had, I think, a 2-week break throughout the whole school year for kids, and that was denied, saying it didn't meet the definition of year-round school. So she indicated that she was going to go down and talk to the gal who sent us the email that said it wasn't a year-round calendar. So the DPI needs to decide what their stance is going to be on this particular topic. But our hope is that we can get clear regulations from them in terms of what they would consider year-round, because if we don't, we can call this a year-round calendar if we want, and then we could, the September 1st date would be later, if there really is no definition for what a year-round calendar is. So anyhow, if you don't have a problem, we would like to send a letter to Dr. Evers. So he's aware that we are working as a group. We're trying to come up with a calendar that we think will better meet the needs of our students.
The committee felt that there was a very strong point about lining up the times with university or colleges. That's not one of the 5 points here.
Right.
Could it be yet?
I have made that case, and I can't, I'm alone.
Oh, okay.
So these were what they felt were the most important reasons.
Okay. Okay.
Just wasn't convincing enough of them, I guess. Sorry, I tried.
Maybe they're not just this far down the road as we are. I don't know.
Well, I know Mr. Salerno was very, you know, I shared with him the PowerPoint that we created, and a lot of it, he's like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize you folks had done this body of work already. So I guess I'm a little surprised that La Crosse isn't thinking in terms of the secondary, you know, the post-secondary schools, because they're in the midst of it with TC and the turbo on La Crosse, but that's not their most important.
That's interesting.
So at this point.
Yes, do you need a motion to that effect?
I think I would like you to approve me signing my name to a letter that goes to Dr. Evers at DPI, and then allowing the flexible calendar year to play around with this. And I guess I'd like to add that I think that maybe another thing that we need to look at is currently how we're doing parent-teacher conferences and how we're doing our professional development as well. We, when you look at some of the models that other school districts are doing, West Salem has evening parent-teacher conferences so that they don't take a day. Like right now, we do the Thursday early release, go into the evening, and then Friday is a half day for conferences, and that half day counts as a face-to-face day with students because we're able to use parent-teacher conference days as one. But West Salem has their conferences in the evening. It's part of teacher responsibility. They have school on that Friday, and it counts as a face-to-face day. So you are able to get more time face-to-face with students while still having the conferences.
Is that an issue though with the elementary level where they have those 15-minute scheduled appointments?
Well, one of the things I think we're seeing with our elementary teachers, I know at Oakdale and Camp Douglas, like they schedule conferences all the time now. I mean, they're mid-quarter, there are conferences that they're having conferences at the end of quarters. I mean, it's not, because of technology and parents being more in tune with how their kids are doing, we're calling parents in to meet with them as needed on a more regular basis. So as long as we can document that you've met with parents to discuss students' progress sometime during the quarter, perhaps that's sufficient. And we don't need to schedule this time where everybody's got to have time off. So I guess I'd like to start having some discussions about that to see if we can't come up with more effective ways to manage the school calendar. The other issue is our early release days. There's no question that we need collaboration time. But should we be looking at having one Friday off a month that is a collaboration day, and we build in if that's a grading time that needs to be happening, and then not have those early release days. I've heard from a few parents who are concerned that how much education happens when you've got a 20-minute class. That's and we've talked with the principals, and they've tried, I know, to have special activities that occur on those days so that if you're going to do a career awareness day, do it on an early release day. So they're making the best use of that time, but they can't always schedule that way. So I think it would be valuable to have some discussions. Are there better ways to provide our professional development, our collaboration time to staff that will better serve our parents and our students as well? So that's part of that whole discussion I think we can start having in the flexible committee meetings.
Anything else? It's hard to imagine the calendar generates so much discussion and issues, but really it ties in with curriculum and collaboration, professional development, just about everything.
And again, it's not the silver bullet. It's one piece of a lot of different things that come into play when we're looking at improving student achievement.
And how we approach the calendar now is totally different than how we approached it years ago when I was on the calendar committee. Very different.
Times are changing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not a bad thing.
So you need a motion to approve, since already signing the letter to Dr. Evers. I will make a motion to approve.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the letter to be signed by Mrs. Zardi to Dr. Evers concerning the calendar consortium. Any other questions? Not all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no.
What was the motion?
The motion was to approve the letter to be signed by Cindy to go to Dr. Evers concerning the calendar consortium.
Thank you. And I got to get the motion.
Okay, who had the motion?
I made the motion.
Judy, second.
I seconded.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, the motion carries, and so that letter is approved, and go ahead. We also wanted approval for the calendar to be considered by the,
Flexible Learning Year Committee to have discussion that goes around that common calendar.
So moved.
is there a second?
Yes.
And we have a motion and a second to have the calendar that was presented and developed by the area superintendents to go to our flexible calendar committee for consideration. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. That motion carries, and so that calendar is not approved. It's approved to be forwarded for consideration.